The views and comments expressed on the following radio program by its hosts and their guests do not necessarily reflect the views of rmconair.com or its affiliates. Listener discretion is advised.
Everyday People. I just love that song. That's what my show is all about. Smitty's Corner. I'm Walter Smith, host of the show, and this is the second of hopefully a series of shows that I will be hosting. We had a very good show last week, and one of the panelists on the show was Dr. Tony Leno, and I thought it would be nice to bring him back and we can focus more attention on Mr. Leno. He's a trichologist and the owner of Leno Products. Tony and I go way back. I wanted to kind of share an experience. I don't know if Dr. Tony Leno remember the experience, but we were at a trade show in, I believe it was Louisiana, and it was my first time going out on behalf of the company. And usually at those shows, you have a number of stylists there and just general public, and you know, we introduce our products, pass out samples, and during that show, you know, we were new in the business, so we weren't necessarily doing real well at the show there. But Dr. Leno conducts classes all over the United States on behalf of companies and on behalf of himself, and he was conducting a show on behalf of the company that I worked for. So anyway, we had other manufacturers around us, and they were selling products. And, you know, it's a little competition going on, and they're looking at us, wondering why we're not selling products, and we're wondering why we're not that effective. But again, we were the new kids on the block. But unbeknownst to me, Mr. Leno was inside a classroom talking up the company's products. And I tell you, as soon as he released the hairstylist from his educational class, they bombarded our booth. And we sold out. So we got the last laugh, as it were. So right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce Dr. Tony Leno, a trichologist and owner of the Leno Products. And we're going to get into a discussion of a little bit focus on him and talk about his background, how he got started in the hair care industry. We're going to ask him to tell us a little bit about his life experience. And then we'll move on to a discussion regarding trichologists. And then we'll get into the cosmetology discussion, and then we'll talk about his product line. So right now, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce you to Dr. Tony Leno. Big round of applause for you there. Nicely done. So, Tony, tell us a little bit of how you got started in the industry.
Oh, this goes back a number of years. I was living in Chicago. That's where I was born and raised. And working for the post office part-time, and when that job ran out, I was looking for a job. And one of the stores on my route when I was carrying mail was a beauty supply store. And I got to know the proprietor, and I asked him, could I come work for him? You know, so I didn't know anything about hair except what was growing on my own head. But other than that, so he hired me on a kind of a part-time basis on commission and things like that. So that was fine. That's better than doing nothing. And I became very interested in the industry. Okay. And I got involved with one of the local manufacturers in Chicago at that time, and they were doing demonstrations and clinics and participating in some of the trade shows that came through town. Okay. Quite a few of them came through Chicago. Yes. Because that's the hub of the whole country right there.
Mecca, you would say.
Oh, yes, definitely.
Industry.
That's where a lot of the mainstream companies actually started. Johnson Products with Ultra Sheen and Carefree, Soft Sheen started there, and
the list can go
several
on
others.
And on,
okay, it goes on and on.
Okay,
and so I was conducting a demonstration of a product on platform, and the beauticians were asking me technical questions about the products, and in order to give an answer and sound intelligent, because I didn't know how to say I don't know, although I found out later that I don't know is the beginning of all knowledge, but I didn't know that at that time.
Yeah.
And so I would ad-lib an answer, and sometimes those answers would come back to haunt me because they made no sense. And so I enrolled in a beauty school.
Okay.
And at that time, it only took less than 1,000 hours to get your license. Now it's up to around 1,800 hours. But I quit just short of putting the total hours because what I was going to school for to learn, which was learn product knowledge, how products work, what do they do, how they interact with the hair.
Yes.
That wasn't on the curriculum.
Okay.
And so I put in almost 1,000 hours in beauty school without getting out of it because I didn't want to be a hairdresser. That just wasn't my forte. I had a hard time combing my own hair. Well, let's try and do somebody else's, you know.
Yeah.
So I dropped out, and so I just started. There were no computers at that time, so I couldn't go there to find out anything. So I just started listening to other platform artists talk about products and question them, and just picked up a lot of information along the way.
Yes.
And also, I joined the National Beauty Cultures League, which is a service organization for black cosmetologists. It's a nationwide organization based out of Washington, D.C., and I would listen to all the learned people there. And after a while, I started becoming an instructor, quite by accident, just because somebody didn't show up one day.
Was that a self-acclaimed instructor, or were you requested, or how did that come about?
Well, I was requested to fill in for somebody.
Okay.
And I found out that I had this natural talent to transfer knowledge. And what makes that so important is that so many of our students, not only in beauty school, but in the academic circles in general, we have a lot of students failing, not because of their lack of academic grasp of things, but because they're being taught by teachers who can't teach.
Okay.
Which means that they have the certificates to teach, but they don't have the natural ability to transfer knowledge.
Okay.
And this is why a lot of our children are failing in all sectors, because they're being taught by teachers who have the education to teach, but they don't have the natural ability to do so.
So you're saying that was going on back then, and you're saying it's happening right now also?
Oh, yes, it's definitely happening right now.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Because teachers are being hired based on their schooling,
yes,
and not on their natural ability to do the job.
I think that applies to general education overall, too.
Oh, yes, definitely.
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
yeah. Well, keep going. You know, we want to hear more about your experience.
Well, so anyway, that's how I got interested in trichology. Trichology is the study of chemistry, hair, and skin. There are other variations of it also that go into nutritional and also into medical trichology, but I specialize in chemical trichology as it relates to hair care products.
Okay.
Because the students coming out of beauty school today, they do not get the information they need to know how to work, how the chemicals. They know how to work with the chemicals. That's what they're taught,
yeah,
but they're not taught how the chemicals work.
Yeah.
They come into this industry the same way you get in your automobile. You know how to open the door, start the car, make it go, control the movement of the vehicle, but you have no idea what's going on under the hood. And that's why beauticians come into this field, that they know how to do what they do, and some of them know how to do it well, but don't let something go wrong.
Yeah.
Like hair turn green, or they go to the shampoo bowl. When they leave the shampoo bowl, the hair stays there.
Yeah.
So that is kind of a devastating thing, because they don't know what to do, and they're not taught that. So
yeah,
that's what my specialty is to teach the beauticians how the products work.
Okay. Okay. Very good. You know, in the last session that we had a optician here, Jacques-Adu, you might recall, and she stressed that there's a need for manufacturers, talking about today, to educate stylists on how to use their products, mm-hmm, and to help them to understand what benefits that they can get from the use of certain ingredients within each product. So you're saying that trichology kind of ties in that kind of information?
Yes. Well, what happens? The manufacturers, they teach people how to use the product, and they're quite good at it.
Yes.
What they don't teach is what does the product do? How does the product interact with the hair to bring about the advertised change?
Yes.
Or the expected end results?
Okay.
Because they don't know themselves.
Well, I'm going to beg to differ with you on that, but we'll keep discussing that. For example, now, when I came in the industry in the 80s, the curl was very popular. Mm-hmm. And so ammonium thioglycolate was one of the main ingredients being used in the curl product. And quite naturally, if you're going to use that ingredient, it has a drying effect on the hair. Is that safe to say? Or because we saw a lot of moisturizers in connection with that service, and that's what I'm trying to lead up to.
Well, any product that changes the hair, whether it's a cold wave product or a hair relaxer,
yes.
hair color, all the ingredients that are there to, and they all use different ingredients, yes. such as hair color uses peroxide and developers, which are designed to oxidize and penetrate the hair so the color can get in.
Yes.
The curl softens the hair so that the hair will take on the shape of the rod that it's wrapped around.
Yes.
Hair relaxers takes the hair and pulverizes it with sodium hydroxide or no-lye ingredients such as calcium and lithium.
There are a few companies out there would challenge you on that statement, but
naturally, they would challenge me on because they're not designed like the people who make automobiles. They're not going to say that it's possible for you to get killed in this automobile if you don't drive it right. You know, so the same thing with manufacturers. They're not going to. They're not even directed to mention some of the side effects that might happen with a product. Like you see with pharmaceutical products advertised on television, yes. They spend more time telling you what the side effects are than telling you about the product. Because okay. by law they have to do that. But in the cosmetic industry, the manufacturers aren't mandated to do that.
Okay. So, again, you were talking about what happens to the structure of the hair, for example, when you use sodium hydroxide. And you're saying that the education in that area needs to be extensive so that the stylists can do a better job at their service, offering their service?
Not necessarily, so that they will have a better understanding of the products that they're working with. Okay, so that if something does go wrong, they don't have to try to call a hotline to the manufacturer, because by the time they get to a hotline to a manufacturer and get to someone who can give them some knowledgeable information, it's too late.
Yeah. Too late from a client standpoint. Hair's lost in the sink. Is that what you're saying, or what?
Exactly. Okay.
Okay. Well, as you continued in your career, who are some of the companies that you have done some consulting work? Because when I met you, that's what you were doing. You actually were a consultant on behalf of the company that I worked for.
Right. That company was Worlds of Curls.
Yes.
And some of the companies I worked with, one of the first ones was Johnson Products with Ultra Sheen.
Okay.
I was living in Chicago at the time. That's where they were. And so I was a consultant to them as to writing their instructions on how to use products.
Okay.
And that was quite an adventure. And me and Mr. George Johnson became good friends as a result of that. And he called me on several occasions to consult on certain problems that their staff weren't quite sure of, because I had a certain amount of knowledge in chemistry.
Okay.
One of the others I worked with was Mr. Ed Gardner, who was the original owner of Carefree Soft Sheen products.
I remember Ed Gardner.
Okay. And when I first met him, he was teaching high school.
Yeah.
In Chicago.
That's what I heard. He was a teacher.
Right, and he was working part-time in a beauty supply store on Saturdays.
Okay.
And meanwhile, he was manufacturing his own product in the basement of his home in Hyde Park. And he invited me to come over and see what he was doing, which I had to decline because I had some, which I regret to this day that I didn't take him up on that. This was before Carefree and Soft Sheen. He was manufacturing a product called 5 Minute Fast Set, which was a setting lotion that he manufactured in his basement. I understand that he wore out the porcelain in a couple of bathtubs doing that. But the end results were very positive.
Okay.
Okay. So that's how he first got started. And then after he got started and became the largest black-owned beauty manufacturing product manufacturing in the country with Carefree Curl.
Yeah, I remember those days. I think they were doing like $100 million or something like that at one time.
85 million.
85 million. Okay. Yeah. Well, that's close.
Well, that's what it was worth when he sold out to L'Oreal.
Okay.
And one time he came to. We were doing a trade show in Memphis, Tennessee, the beauty trade show for Beauty Trade magazine, and he came up to me. He said, "Tony, can I take you to lunch? I got a problem with our product, and you know something about chemistry. Maybe you can help me with this problem." I said, "So what was the problem?"
Okay.
The problem was that with the curl, the cold wave solution has a limited pH. In other words, the pH parts per of hydrogen. That's what pH stands for.
Yes.
And which means how long the product will maintain its working strength.
Right.
And a relaxer will stay, pH will stay high forever.
Go off the charts.
Go off the charts, right?
Yeah.
Okay. But a cold wave has a pH that's much lower than a relaxer. But as soon as it's out of the bottle, the pH starts to drop.
Right.
And in 20 minutes, it's down below effectiveness.
Yeah.
Well, using the curl, the ammonium thioglycolate on Afro hair. It would take much longer because Afro hair is much thicker, has a much thicker cuticle,
Yeah.
and it takes longer to penetrate. So what was happening was that the product would stop working before the chemical did its job.
Okay.
And so he asked me, "What do you think I should do about that?" I said, "Well, what you need to do is to reapply the cold wave in another form."
So you tell me, is that when the booster came
in
out?
order to boost the pH
Okay.
up.
All right.
6 weeks later, Carefree came out with a product called Carefree Curl Booster.
I saw where you were headed with that.
and I gave that idea away over a $7 lunch.
Oh, really? And they went on to make millions of dollars with that booster. Yeah. It's still on the shelf today, I believe.
Yes. What made it so popular was because there were other companies making curl products also.
Okay.
But Carefree had the only booster, so regardless of what brand of other curl product they were using, if they wanted to boost the pH back up, they had to get the Carefree booster.
That's right.
And it became the biggest selling item in the line
Yes.
at that time. This was back in the 70s.
Okay. And so from Soft Sheen, you went on to what other companies?
Well, from Soft Sheen, who else? Well, I was a consultant with Dudley Products also.
Okay.
And I had moved to California by that time, and I had started my own product company.
Yeah.
Leno Products.
Right.
You know where Leno came from. But meanwhile, I was also doing trade shows all over the country and teaching classes, like such as the Bonner Brothers show, the Proud Lady show in Chicago.
Yeah.
Bonner Brothers in Atlanta.
Big Show Expo in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Bernice Williams.
Yeah, Bernice Calvin.
Calvin, yeah.
Yes, Bernice Calvin.
Yeah.
And so I was teaching classes, and then with the National Beauty Cultures League, they have their convention every year in a different city.
Yeah.
And I was one of their staff instructors for that. And that's how I got my doctorate. It was through because they have a doctorate, master's and doctorate program.
Okay.
And so I became a part of that program as an instructor rather than as a student, although I attended the classes also.
Yeah.
And after 8 years, I had earned a doctorate degree through the National Beauty Cultures League.
In cosmetology?
In trichology,
Okay.
as it relates to cosmetology. And at that time, the classes were being sanctioned by Howard University.
Oh, okay.
And so my class, my doctorate is sanctioned through Howard University.
Okay, that's why you probably wear that title, Dr. Leno, I see. Huh? Okay.
Right, because I earned it over a period of 8 years.
Okay.
You know.
Now, is the Cosmetology Association still active?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Okay, regionally? Is there a regional branch?
California is very weak. They're strongest mostly in the southern states.
Okay.
Okay, Louisiana, Texas, North and South Carolina, Florida.
And that's why I feel a need to do what I can from a manufacturer standpoint. That's why we had that luncheon, to try and organize the local stylists, because I don't see any organization, locally speaking, to unite them and help us move in a positive direction as an organization or a group.
Right, we don't have one. We used to have one called the CCLEC, which stood for California Cosmetology Legislative and Education Committee.
Yes.
I'm surprised I still remember that. But they disbanded several years ago, and their main purpose was to bring about legislation change within the state that would affect the cosmetology industry.
Okay.
And it was basically a black organization, because black cosmetology differs greatly from general cosmetology.
Yeah.
But the states don't recognize that.
Okay. And we're going to get into the second half of our segment talking about cosmetology. So I kind of want to stay where we are now. You have any more experiences to share with us? How did you meet Frank Davey, Worlds of Curls?
How did I meet Frank Davey? Frank Davey started out in this business quite by accident himself. He was a salesman for a chemical company, and one of the main products that he sold was glycerin. And glycerin turned out to be the main ingredient in curl activators,
yes,
especially in the gel. And so he found a chemist, Kay Wilson, because he was selling chemicals to her also, so he wanted to develop a product, and that's how Worlds of Curls came about.
Yeah, well, I remember that part about it.
And that's how I met you.
Yeah, I came in April of '80, so I'm not sure. When did you come in?
I came in '81.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Right, a little bit after we got going there.
When we moved over to the Alameda location.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
You talked about the chemicals and the pH and balances and what effect they have on the hair, and that has brought us up to the current trend in the industry. A lot of women are getting away from the use of the harsh chemicals as they see it. But one concern that I have, I was at a natural show earlier this year, and I heard from the platform one of the stylists just saying, make sure you don't use products that have alcohol in it. And they just kept stressing that. And I thought it was so unfair that they would push that notion, because some alcohols are considered to be, I'm going to use the expression, good alcohol for the use on hair, and I'm referring to acetyl alcohol and some of the others. So you want to talk a little bit about that?
Okay, everybody thinks that alcohol is alcohol, and alcohol is in drinks.
Yeah.
That's one form of alcohol. You have alcohol that's a rubbing alcohol, which is totally different.
Yes.
Okay, alcohol in products, in hair care products, are drying, because the alcohol evaporates very fast. That's why it feels cold when you put some on your hand, even though it might be the same temperature as water.
Yeah.
But you put some alcohol on the back of your hand and put some water on the back of the other. They're both the same temperature, but the one on your that has alcohol is going to feel cooler. And that's because of the rapid evaporation.
Yes.
Okay. And so when it evaporates out the hair, it also takes with it natural ingredients and natural nutrients that the hair can use.
Yeah. So now let's get back to the acetyl alcohol. Though, when I did my research, you find out that it's used to allow oil and water to mix, or glycerin-type based products and water to mix, and it holds it together. In other words, it serves as an emulsification.
Well, it does more than that. Its main purpose is to add to a product to give it consistency, so that it won't be liquidy, it'll be more creamy.
Right.
And the more the acetyl alcohol you add to it, the thicker that it is.
Yes.
And it's not harmful to the hair, but it's used basically as an emulsifier to blend oil-based and water-based ingredients together, so they blend together. Glycerin also does the same thing.
Yes. And molecularly, its weight helps to trap in moisture in the hair too, from what I understand.
Yeah, but glycerin does that even more so. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what the acetyl alcohol does, and Cetyl alcohol, it's not really alcohol at all. It has none of the properties that you would think of in alcohol. It's used basically, I don't know where the term, how it got to be called alcohol, but,
Yes.
but it's actually, in its raw form, it's like a bunch of little wax beads.
Yeah.
That's what it looks like. That's what it feels like, little wax beads. But when it's melted and blended into a product, the more you add to it, the thicker the consistency of the product will be.
Yeah, I was looking at a facial product that my wife had on the shelf in the bathroom there, and it has cetyl alcohol in it. So it's used in a variety of products, in a variety of ways also.
Oh yes, skin care, hair care,
Yes.
and in even in the medical field.
Right. So for those naturalists out there, they shouldn't necessarily be alarmed when they look at the ingredients on the back of some of the packaging, and they see the word cetyl alcohol, and there's one other. It says it starts with a S.
Steroid.
Yeah.
Steroid. I can't think.
Yes.
I don't have it in front of me now.
Anyway, when they see those ingredients, it shouldn't set off an alarm that it's going to damage your hair. It's going to actually have a soothing, causing the hair to last long because you're restoring moisture to the hair.
Right.
Yeah.
And also, when the manufacturers, when they use alcohol in products, they have to have a special license from the government to use alcohol.
Right.
But cetyl alcohol doesn't need that because it doesn't have the same properties that are in distilled alcohol. Otherwise, cetyl alcohol is not a distilled product as regular alcohol is.
Okay. Well, what we're going to do now is going to go ahead and put our commercial up, sponsor, and then we'll get back into a discussion about cosmetology.
What's your style? Curly? Straight? Wavy? Or maybe you like it natural? Introducing Secret Styling Hair Care Products by Smith Products Company, LLC. A complete line of hair moisturizers, shampoos, conditioners, and an assortment of other hair styling aids formulated for today's fashion-conscious consumer. Enhance your style. Get the secret.
So that was the commercial that I run from time to time on cable TV, and you can see a shot of my product line there. The products are available in all of the local beauty supply stores, and you might recall when we were having a discussion in our panel discussion, one of my goals for 2015 is to get more shelf space and increase distribution locally. So for our viewers, they have the opportunity to see the Secret Styling brand, and they can visit our website at www.secretstyling.com. We're going to feature your products a little later on, Tony, in our discussion here. So right now, I want to transition into the cosmetology area. You have a lot to say about what goes on within that system there, and I've heard you talk about it from time to time, so I thought as we have this show going, you would have a great opportunity now to express some of your viewpoints about what goes on from a cosmetology standpoint in terms of education. So,
okay, well, to back up just a little bit, you were asking about the other companies that I had been consulting with.
Yes.
And we mentioned Johnson Products, Ultra Sheen, and Carefree. I also consult with Dudley Products out of North Carolina.
yes.
I was a teacher for a little while in their DCU, which is Dudley Cosmetology University.
Right.
I taught classes there, and I also helped develop or redevelop some of their product line.
Okay.
While I was there. And then we already talked about Worlds of Curls, and I was a consultant with Worlds of Curls, and then became a full-time employee quite by accident.
Yeah.
and that was a really good experience for me. It was a good experience for Worlds of Curls too.
Yeah, for all of us, it was a great experience. I really enjoyed the experience. It paved the way for me to be able in business to this day.
Okay, because doing consulting work, and people come up to me all the time and ask me questions.
Yeah.
I mean, you used to ask me a ton of questions.
I call you all the time right now, so
Right now.
it's not a big deal. I do refer to you when I have questions about the industry.
And I don't mind sharing information.
Yeah, you
okay?
never given me a problem with information.
Okay. Then
That's what relationships are all about.
I worked with California Curl. They were the ones who first developed the curly perm for Afro hair.
Okay, now what about Larry Brooks? How does he come in there? I used to hear that debate going on when I first came in.
Larry Brooks, he worked for Jerry Curl.
Correct.
Okay, now that curl was always called the Jerry Curl because they were the first one to come out with it. And basically what Jerry Curl was the same curl product that was used on Caucasian hair and used with a different set of instructions so it could work on Afro hair.
Right.
Whereby the hair had to be wrapped on base, which means straight up the hair, and then wrapped it with as much tension as the scalp could stand.
Right.
Okay. And sometimes when you took the rods out, the hair came out with it because it was wrapped just too tight. Okay, and it was very uncomfortable.
Right.
Okay, and so Willie Morrow with California Curl, he said there's a better way to do this. At that time, I was making a product called curling iron and press comb relaxer.
Right.
Whereby I was using thiol to pre-soften the hair prior to pressing and curling.
Okay.
Okay, so that the press would last 3 times longer.
Okay, well, Luster Silk had a product similar to that. Culture?
With, what was that product called? Luster Silk.
Yeah.
They came out with, but it was different. It was a chemical that wouldn't last longer. It just made the hair look like it was natural instead of like a press. Because pressed hair looked pressed because all that oil was on the surface of the hair reflecting light, and it didn't have a natural look. Yeah. So with Luster Silk, it wouldn't give the hair longevity, but it would give it a natural look. Okay. Whereby my product gave longevity and a natural look.
Okay.
Okay. So one day, Willie Morrow, he was in San Diego at the time, still is, I think. Was buying my product from me. Then he asked me, could I make it up? I had it only in little 8-ounce bottles. He wanted to know, can you make me up gallons of this stuff?
Okay.
And he was ordering gallons. I said, well, what are you doing with this? He said, Tony, if you knew what I was doing with this stuff, you would have a fit. And he was paying me for it, so I sold it to him by the gallons. And next thing I know, he came out with a product called the Afro Curl.
Okay.
And
this was before the California Curl.
Yeah, and he test marketed it. But what he was doing, he was taking my product was in a lotion form. Okay. He was taking it and putting it into a cream form like a relaxer.
Yes. And
it worked. People liked it, especially I don't know why it took off in Houston, Texas, really big, and it got to the point where he couldn't manage the production of the products anymore. So he was interested in seeing some of the larger manufacturers, such as Johnson Products, Carefree, Luster Silk, any of the big manufacturers at the time. At that time, Dudley Products, and none of them took him up on it except for Carefree. What happened was Willie did not patent the product.
The formula.
The formula.
Yeah.
There was a good reason for that too, because usually when you patent a formula, anybody can
adjust the percentages.
Right.
You got a new formula.
Right. You usually patent mechanical things because every cog has a purpose and a use. Whereby in a chemical, you can't tell how much of what is mixed in. So, but what happened was Carefree took the idea and incorporated using the same product, the same method of ingredients, everything. The formula was really easy to copy. It was just taking thiol and taking it out of a liquid or lotion form and putting it into a cream form like a relaxer.
Generally speaking, creams, you're able to control it in the application.
Right, right. You can control it in the application. Yeah. And the purpose of it was to pre-straighten the hair by about 40%.
Okay.
So that it would be much easier to wrap. And you had to wrap real tight and real hard, and it took off. And Carefree went from a dismal, unknown company to a multinational, millionaire company out of Chicago. Yeah. And the name was called Carefree Curl.
Okay.
And it's still around today.
Okay, so that's the story on Carefree Curl.
But it all started really with Willie Morrow.
Okay.
He's the one that introduced the idea.
Right.
But it was still called the Jerry Curl. Everybody got even today it's still called the Jerry Curl.
Yeah, the comedians even call it Jerry Curl.
The Jerry Curl. And Jerry Redding has passed away many years ago. It was named after him. Yeah. Jerry Redding, because it was his company. and they had been making hair care products for years and years prior to all this.
All right. So let's get in that cosmetology discussion there. Like I said, I've listened to you on occasions, and you seem to feel that there's some things lacking in that area there, or am I getting it wrong?
There's a lot of things lacking in that area. One other manufacturer I wanted to mention also. I just got to get back to this because I can't. Proline.
Okay.
Okay. You know who the owner of Proline?
Coleman Cottrell.
Coleman Cottrell. He passed away a couple of months ago.
Yeah, we lost him.
His claim to fame was the
curly kit.
The curly kit.
That's right.
Well, I'm the one who developed the curly kit for him. Because I was a consultant to him for on a lot of different things, and he came to me one day. He said, "Tony, what is it in the market that this market needs, that black market needs?
Yes,
that's being provided right
right
now." And I thought about that for a while, and came back. I said, "What we need is a curl kit, curl kit that can be sold on the retail market, because before the curl product could only be bought in large quantities in beauty supply stores for professionals only.
Right, 20-ounce jar maybe. Or
right, and so that's how it was developed.
Yeah.
However, the first time it came out with it was a flop.
Well, you mentioned Coleman Cottrell. I just give you a little history. I have some history with him also. Mm-hmm. Prior to him getting in the hair business, he worked for Sears and Roebuck, and I worked for Sears. He used to be manager of the plumbing department, and I worked in the warehouse. And when he would sell a water heater, we would go in customer service and pull the water heater and put it in the customer's car. So I knew him then. In fact, when I was trying to enter into this business because I was tired of being inside in retail, I actually called him and tried to get a job with him. He was out in Carson, California at the time. Mm-hmm. And he told me that he was getting ready to move to Texas. So that's why I didn't connect with him in that transition right there. Mm-hmm. But I met Frank Davey. One day I was out and about, and at that time he was selling the chemicals like you make reference to. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of funny how this all ties in, you know. And like you said, Mr. Cottrell passed away recently, so he left his mark on the industry, though.
Oh, yes. And when I first met him, he was working in Sears and Roebuck. Okay. He had moved from the store on Pico, I think, was over to the one on Slauson.
That's where I met him, on Slauson in Vermont.
Slauson in Vermont. That's where I first met him.
Okay, that's where I met my wife, too.
When I met him, he was filling in for somebody else, another manager in the men's department.
Okay.
He sold me a shirt and tie.
Yeah.
But that's how I first met him.
Okay.
And so when he decided to get into the business, I was the first one he consulted with, because I was manufacturing products on 47th and Western Avenue in a storefront thing. And he came over and he wanted to know how to make the products. I showed him how to do because when he first opened up, he was just in a little storefront on South Broadway. Yeah. And somebody else was manufacturing the product for him. Then he moved to, before he moved to Carson, he was in, what's the other little town? I should be able to call him because that's where my business is. Gardena. In Gardena. He was first in a location in Gardena. Okay. And then he continued to consult with me all this time.
Yeah. Jerry White kind of shared some history he had with him also during that particular time period.
Yeah, Jerry White with Kazuri products was also coming along at about that same time. So we all kind of came up together back in the early 70s.
Okay. So now, can we get into cosmetology? Or do you want to still move around?
No.
Okay, so let's talk about it before we run out of time here. Because I do want to talk about your line also.
Okay.
The floor is yours.
Oh, okay. Well, one of the things that I teach, because this has become like my my life work really, is trying to bring to the attention of the powers that be, whoever that is, usually the state boards of cosmetology.
Okay.
California has always been a leader in almost any and everything.
That's correct.
In almost every endeavor.
Yes.
But the one area that California is behind is in the State Board of Cosmetology. The State Board of Cosmetology, California doesn't have a State Board of Cosmetology.
Well, now, why do you say that? Now, these kids go to school and they have rules that they have to abide by, which come from the state of California.
Okay, but the State Board of Cosmetology has been combined with another segment of the government.
Okay.
And so California doesn't have an independent State Board of Cosmetology. It becomes a part of another branch of the government.
Oh, I see.
Okay. And what's happening is that black students coming out of beauty school, not only in California but all over the country,
Right.
Coming out of school, if they come out of school knowing only what is in the textbooks and only what is required by the state board to get their license,
Right.
they'll become very good hairdressers on Caucasians. They will not know how to do many of the services that are required by their black
now,
clientele.
I was going to ask you that question. You said you zeroed in on black students, and I said, well, what about the white students? Are they being educated properly?
Oh yeah.
Okay. So what you're saying is the black students are being educated on white hair structure?
Well, they're being on general cosmetology,
Okay.
without recognizing the fact that ethnic ethnic students, not only blacks but also
Hispanics.
Asians, Hispanics, because their hair is different also from
Yes.
Caucasian. It might be straight, but it's coarser and thicker. And for instance, a Asian, Hispanic, or Indian person could not get a curl formed on the hair doing it the same way it's done on Caucasian hair.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, but the textbook only teaches how to do it, and on Afro hair it's totally different. Although they began to kind of recognize it a few years ago with a section that they put in the textbook called the soft perm.
Yeah.
The soft perm was supposed to be to tell you how to do a curl on Afro hair,
Yeah.
but there's 5 different variations of getting a successful curl on Afro
In
hair.
the general market, though, they refer to it as permanent wave.
Yeah.
That's one way.
Yeah, right. And so they call it soft perm. And in the book, they only talk about one of the aspirations.
Okay.
Okay, and that is combing to rearrange it through the hair.
Yeah.
But there's other aspirations, too. And matter of fact, if a student in some states, you can take a live model to the state board
Right.
and to perform a curl. That's not very, I think in Texas, Louisiana, a few others.
Where in California, you have to use mannequins?
You use mannequins and stimulate with water or shaving cream.
Okay.
And but if anywhere in the country, if a student took a live black model
Yeah.
to the state board to execute how the curl was supposed to be done,
Right.
and if she did it exactly the way it's supposed to be done on Afro hair, and it turns out beautiful, she'll fail the state board on 3 counts.
Wow.
because 3 of the procedures that leads to a successful curl on Afro hair are not recognized by the state board of cosmetology.
Okay, so why, and during all this time period, hasn't changes been implemented in the system? You know, I'm sure someone has recognized that problem there.
The reason for it being is that nobody complains about it.
Okay.
The black students get out of school. They learn from other beauticians how to do it right,
Yeah.
including press and curl. In some states, the state of California just recently took pressing the practicality of press and curl off the curriculum.
Oh, really?
Right. Yeah. And
Now,
yet,
what sense does that make? What percentage of press and curl is it of the business of African American stylists?
about 25%,
Okay.
maybe more than that.
Okay.
Okay. Back in the 40s and 50s, it was almost 100%
Yeah.
until the relaxer came along,
Yeah.
and so they took that off the curriculum, and that means if a student comes out of beauty school and doesn't know how to do press and curl, she'll have to turn away 25 to 30% of the new clientele that comes through the door because she doesn't know how to do the service.
So that's money out of her pocket right off the top when
Right.
she's struggling trying to get started.
However, many of the black students who started music, they knew how to do press and curl at home. Okay.
Yeah, that's the reality. of it.
Right. So they went to school so that they could open up a shop and have a license to do it legally.
Yeah.
And many of the things that the black students know, such as press and curl and the correct way to do the curly perm on Afro hair,
Right.
they already knew or they learned it. They didn't learn it in school.
Right.
So that's why we have so many people bootlegging right now in their homes,
Yeah.
is because going to school is just basically a way of doing it legally.
Yes. Legitimizing their
Right.
practice.
Right.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Which is necessary to operate in state of
Which is,
California.
yeah.
Yeah.
But
You got that funny look on your face
well,
when I said
because
that.
you know why? Because it's not. It's regulated, but it's not enforced.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. So, what kind of changes would you like to see made in the business, in the cosmetology field?
Okay, well, my classes that I teach now, and I also wrote a book on it. Here's a copy of it right here.
that's-
I don't know if it's
Is that on the camera there?
It's on the
Okay,
camera.
very good.
Okay. It's called "What the Textbooks and state boards are ignored, and how it have impacted professional cosmetology.
Okay.
And I put this book together a little at a time. It started out as only being 7 pages, and now it's about 80 pages.
Well, you were putting that together back in the 80s.
Yeah, right. And
Yeah.
I keep adding to it as more information becomes available.
Okay.
Because what it does is that it teaches the beauticians how the chemicals in cosmetology work and
Okay.
why.
Well, now, where can the student get a hold of that? Because it's not part of the curriculum.
Well, they could. They could. I think you have a up there. Yeah. Okay. That's how they can. Liquid Gold Bonding at AOL.com, and no I in bonding. Okay, that's BONDNG, or call the number you see on the screen there.
Okay.
And if you want to get a copy of the book is $25. That includes mailing. And what the book has, I don't really make any profit off this book because the information here is actually priceless, because it takes you through so many different aspects of the field of cosmetology.
Okay.
From behind the scenes.
Okay.
So that you learn how, for example, just to give you one example, is what age should a child be before you give a chemical service?
Yes.
That's been an age-old question ever since relaxers
Well, you know
came
what?
along.
Now the discussion is, what age should a person put a weave on a child? Can you believe that?
Yeah.
What age should a parent decide to put a weave on a child? That's a discussion that's taking place now.
Right. Well, let's say well into their teens.
Yeah.
Okay, well into their teens. But for a chemical service such as a relaxer, hair color, anything that penetrates the hair,
Right.
a cold wave permanent, should be at least at 7 or 8, or when the permanent teeth come in, that's when the permanent hair comes in.
Yeah. And I say, fortunately, mothers are stepping up now, and they're teaching their daughters to appreciate the natural. So, because you stated early on the effects of chemicals in the hair. You know, the harshness.
Right, the harshness.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So, but you're saying that you discussed that in your text there.
Yes, and how the chemicals work, and even I had in the history of press and curl, the history of hair relaxing. Where did it all start? Where did it all come from?
Right.
You know, going all the way back to Annie Malone and Madam C.J. Walker.
Yeah,
you know.
we had a discussion about that last
But actually,
week.
it goes back further than that. It goes back to the time of slavery, when,
Yes.
when black folks were trying to emulate their white masters by making their hair straight, and they were straightening it by ironing, using the same procedure of ironing wrinkles out of clothes, which they didn't know anything about in Africa, but they learned. They say, well, hey, if that hot iron can straighten out these clothes, I'll probably be able to straighten out my hair. And that's how that started.
And that's nothing to laugh at, because that was a cultural issue.
That was a cultural issue, but that's how it started.
Yeah.
And then they started taking their Afro combs that were made out of wood or bone,
Right.
and fashioning it out of metal and using it as those were your first straightening combs.
So I imagine that you're going to have to update your text there for the Afro styles and get a little dialogue there, or do you actually discuss that? You know, the natural look, as it were, and products to use for it, and how you should use it.
Yeah, I covered that in the book here too.
Okay.
How to achieve a natural hair.
Okay.
And I try to cover every aspect, starting with press and curl.
Yes.
Then the relaxers.
Yes.
And there's quite a bit of information in here about the relaxers.
Okay.
Information that beauticians don't probably wouldn't really consider until it comes up.
Well, now let me ask you, what about the general public? Would they be interested in reading your text?
Well, if they got hair, yeah.
Okay.
However, the book is written kind of in a technical form for the beautician, by using technical terms that are used from someone who's been through beauty school.
Okay, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we're going to transition. I want to leave some time for you to talk about your liquid gold, if you would like to talk about it right now, or do you want to continue a little more in the discussion of the cosmetology? Did you finish your thoughts here?
Oh, I never finished my thoughts when I talk about this, because this is my life's work, teaching trichology.
Yes.
As it relates to Afro hair.
Yes. You know, I'm going to be honest with you. I used to always wonder, how did you come to the point that you're able to say that you're a trichologist, but you explained that early on, and it's sanctioned by, you say, Howard University? Or?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, that's really good to know.
Yeah.
So you got some authority.
It was through the National Beauty Cultures League,
Yes.
which is headquartered in Washington, D.C.
Right.
And if you have any beauticians out there who want to join a service organization that really fits the Afro end of the industry, contact the National Beauty Cultures League in Washington, D.C., and they'll be glad to send you out information.
All right. You know, one of the purposes of organizing this program is to do just that. You know, we have viewers and listeners to the program, and you have young people trying to make decisions in their life. You know, what direction should they go? And the haircare industry, as we talked about, is $1 billion industry. So there should be all kinds of job opportunities within the industry, and particularly in the field of cosmetology and barbering. So that's one of the reasons why I wanted to bring you on and have some dialogue about what's going on in the industry from that standpoint, and to show that there's room for growth in areas like trichology. Would you say that's a true statement?
Oh, yes, and it's relatively unknown, really.
Yes,
the field of trichology.
And that's the point, because stylists are crying out for education, and they want to know about hair structure, about products, and how they work or how they interrelate. So you're saying the field of trichology kind of covers that.
Yes, it is. However, there's no recognized university that actually teaches a course in trichology.
Yeah.
This is something that you usually have to go online and find out who's teaching it.
Yes.
And because it's not really a recognized academic source. You can go to UCLA or even Howard University, where I got mine, because Howard doesn't teach either, but they sanction organizations that do, such as the NBCL.
Okay. Now, have you actually taken your discussions into cosmetology schools?
Oh, yes, all the time.
Okay. Okay.
Some schools won't allow me to come in.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at. See,
You know why? Because I'm teaching them things that
won't allow the student to get past the state board.
Right, because the schools, their job is to get the students successfully past the state board of cosmetology. And my job is to make them a success once they get past the state board of cosmetology. But the schools don't want people coming in there from the outside teaching things that aren't part of the academic curriculum.
Right. While we're talking about that, one concern I had just as an observer, are students being taught how to operate businesses in cosmetology school once they reach their senior level in cosmetology?
Yes, they are. They're taught basic business skills.
Okay.
Accounting, which could apply to any business.
Marketing.
Yeah. How to
build your business.
Yeah, how to market yourself.
Okay.
Yeah, and how to handle money.
Okay.
How to hire employees.
Okay.
To work for you.
All right. I was curious about that, because I mostly see product knowledge.
That's part of the curriculum.
Okay.
And sometimes they even find jobs for students.
Yes.
Which is rare.
Now that transition from being a student and going into the actual profession, though, is there a big difference from what we talked about from one end, but is there a big difference in the actuality of getting clients versus what you're taught?
Yeah. Well, for the black student, it's really a problem, because they're disillusioned by what the industry is about, because when they get into the real world of cosmetology, they find out that a lot of the situations that come up in the black areas, in the ethnic areas, they weren't prepared for in school.
Give me an example.
Example, like I said, press and curl, for example.
Okay.
They're no longer required to know the practicality. All they have to do is know the theory of press and curl, but not the practicality of it. Okay? Same way with the curly perms. The correct way to do it on Afro hair. You know.
Yeah. But then it goes back to what you were saying earlier too, though, that a lot of these young girls have been pressing their hair.
At home. Right.
Yeah. So they've mastered the technique to a degree, and now they have the proper knowledge to go along with it, the theory behind it.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
All right. That makes sense. So let's take a few minutes and talk about liquid gold bond, and I think we have some a graphic or a picture that we can put up just so folks can have a visual.
Use this one.
Yeah. All right. Are you able to see that? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about your liquid gold.
Okay.
Products.
Liquid gold came about with the hair weave industry. Okay,
Yes.
and people were. Prior to using the adhesives, they were sewing it in.
Right.
And sewing took a long time. Like, it took about 5 hours to do it because they had to first make a plait. And what a plait is they make a braid across the scalp,
Right.
Several braids, and then they sew the weaved hair onto the. So when
That's where a lot of stylists are making their money at right now.
oh yes,
Yeah,
right,
yeah, okay.
right. But it's a time-consuming procedure. It usually
Yes.
takes about 5 hours to do it. Okay,
Okay.
to do it right. Somebody within the academics of hair care products came
Okay.
up with a method of taking a glue and gluing the hair. Instead of making the braid, you just make a part and glue the hair to the just below the part.
Okay.
And that only took maybe an hour and a half to do. Okay.
Now, truthfully, I've heard a lot of nightmare scenarios, but you've been in business for how long now with your liquid bond?
Oh, about 20 years.
Yeah, and you stated you have it distributed all over the United States and in.
Yes, I have. What made mine different was that these other hair weaving glues, they would only stay on until the hair got wet. If they walked out in the rain or they shampooed the hair, I developed one that will stay on through about 3 to 5 shampoos.
Okay.
And it's applied a little bit differently. But it can be done in just the same length of time, about an hour and a half. But it's going to stay on for much longer, and because mine is an acrylic-based bond,
Yeah.
not latex-based.
You know, interesting thing, just to let you know, in one of the local beauty supply stores, they were selling a lot of my cleansing shampoo because it lifted that glue instantly, and that was a plus for me, and not knowing that that was going on until one of the local salesperson kind of informed me of that. But anyway, finish your discussion.
Okay, yeah, because what the cleansing shampoo would do would be to loosen it. A lot of time when they go to take it off, when they deliberately try to take it off,
Yes.
The hair comes off, but the glue stays in. And
That's the nightmare scenarios I've been hearing a little bit about.
And so and then they try to comb it and brush it out and shampoo it out, and they break a lot of their natural hair trying to get the glue out the hair.
Okay.
So along with my glue, since mine stayed on 3 to 4 times longer, I had to develop a remover that would not just loosen it, but actually dissolve the glue.
Okay.
And so I have a remover, and it works with any bonding product,
Okay.
any brand.
Okay.
And what it does is that it dissolves the glue instead of just making it wet with oil.
Okay.
And because when you make it wet with oil, the hair is going to slide off,
Yes.
but the glue is going to stay in.
Okay. Well, I want to say that it's really been a pleasure having you here. I knew that this was going to be an interesting discussion because you have years and years of experience in the industry, and you've worked with a number of companies, like you stated, on a consultant basis. So I greatly appreciate you coming down and bailing me out and making sure that we have a successful show. This is my second show, and I actually have scheduled Doris Mosley to come on the next show, and she's going to talk a little bit about the Spectrum Expo that she has coming up in March, which you participate in that show as a manufacturer, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I as well. So
Well, as an instructor sometimes, too.
okay, all right. So again, is there any closing remarks that you would like to share with the viewers before we wrap the show up?
Well, the only one is that if anyone wants to get in touch with me, either on anything that was discussed today or want to know how to get a copy of the book, this is the. He's already posted it up there. Okay,
Okay, very good.
Write that down.
Can you do my commercial? All right.
All right. So hope to hear from you.
Okay. Again, we want to thank you, and we're going to sign out by letting the Secret Styling commercial air. Goodbye, everyone. And Chris, we want to thank you for hosting the show as an engineer.
What's your style? Curly? Straight? Wavy? Or maybe you like it natural? Introducing Secret Styling Hair Care Products by Smith Products Company, LLC. A complete line of hair moisturizers, shampoos, conditioners, and an assortment of other hair styling aids formulated for today's fashion-conscious consumer. Enhance your style. Get the secret.